This is a production of PBS Charlotte.
This week on Off the Record, 10 candidates, no waiting. That pretty much describes the 9th District primary for Congress. We'll talk about the low turnout and Dan Bishop's big win over 9 fellow Republicans. Also, answers to your RNC 2020 questions. Fundraising ahead of schedule? Yep. $200 million impact? Yep. And was that really the Charlotte convention already on HBO this week? Maybe. Charlotte streetcars off the rails for a year and a half. Katz goes on Facebook this week to explain the whens and the whys. CMS has a new school equity policy, but is it enough to reverse decades of inequity in Charlotte's public schools? And Diploma Day at UNC Charlotte, celebrating the graduates on campus and remembering the victims of a campus shooting. Off the Record's next on PBS Charlotte. Hi, I'm Jeff Snyder. This is Off the Record, where we talk about the stories you've been talking about this week. And if you watch the news, read the news, or listen to the news, you'll recognize the names and faces around our table. Dedrick Russell from WBTV and Mark Becker from WSOC-TV. Thanks for being here. Also, Eli Portillo from the UNC Charlotte Urban Institute and Ashley Fahey from the Charlotte Business Journal. Thank you for joining us. Thanks at home for being here as well. You can email your questions and comments anytime to offtherecord@WTVI.org. And we're not on Facebook Live this week, but we'll be back soon if you're Facebook fans out there. Well, we had an election this week. Not a whole lot of people showed up for the election, but at least now we know who is going to be the Republican candidate among 10 running against Dan McCready for the 9th District race coming up in September, not November. Let's talk a little bit about the actual primary itself and the outcome. Any surprises that not just that Bishop won, but that he won by such a large margin?
I'm surprised, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have 10 candidates, and you have a lot of money put in, at least by Lee Brown. Got a lot of realtor money. New money versus old money, I guess, right? Dan Bishop is the guy who's been there, and name recognition certainly highest, but to win 48%.
And wow. Finishing first in every county, including Union County, where he faced strong opposition from a Union County commissioner, Stoney Rushing as well.
It was a very low turnout race, less than 10%, but Bishop significantly overperformed the very few public polls we've seen that showed him in the low 30s. He got to almost 50% in a 10-way field. And Lee Brown, with almost more than $1.3 million worth of the National Association of Realtors PAC money behind her, only got, I believe, 2,600 votes. That's a lot of TV advertising that did basically nothing. They spent about $500 per vote. And that to me was a surprise that, she didn't move the needle anymore. Matthew Ridenour, former Mecklenburg County Commissioner, came in a distant third. Name recognition helped him some in Mecklenburg, but I don't think it really looked like he got beyond the borders of his old county commission seat.
The campaign itself seemed kind of an experiment. Like you said, traditional campaigning of Dan Bishop. Ridenour relied much on Facebook and social media, specifically said he was going to do that. Lee Brown relied a lot on outside money. I guess what we're seeing is maybe maybe Facebook and social media isn't quite as effective as we thought it was in a low turnout primary. I mean, is there anything to be learned from the tactics?
In a low turnout primary, and I'm just going to make a couple of assumptions here, that you probably have older voters, you probably have more wealthy voters. That may not be
and rural accurate. Voters too, I would think, because of the district.
But what I'm getting at is you probably don't have a big Facebook crowd, right?
Okay.
You don't have a new media crowd. You don't have the millennials and Generation Xers, who are more likely to be, for better or worse, progressive, and those are the folks who are using the Facebook stuff, right? So, and coupling that with the old machinery. I mean, Dan Bishop's been around politics here for a long time, and that counts. It matters.
And that shows a light that if you do the Facebook and all of that, that shows to me that do you know your constituency?
Right, exactly.
Because if you just outline who your constituents are, then I need to go where they are in order for them to get to the polls to vote for me. And that low, under 10%, found that surprising because in the season where the Republicans, after the Mark Harris, after that scandal, and after the top Republican of the Republican Party, his scandal, you know, you would see that either A, the Republican Party, this will galvanize and generate more motivation and excitement to say, hey, we're, you know, this is our time now to get back on the rails. But it didn't seem that way to me if I have under 10%.
Right. I think, to me, the Bishop's victory says a lot about name recognition and how that counts a lot more than social media or big ad buy. You know, Dan Bishop was the only one with statewide profile. He had gained a lot of favor from a lot of conservative Republicans for HB2, and he's been brought up continuously in the last few years as the author of HB2. So for better or worse, people know his name, and going into a low turnout race like that, I think that just counts for more than anything else.
And another surprise to me, you know, Mark Harris, he backed Stony Russian.
Stony Russian, right.
And so Mark Harris won. So you would think that if Mark Harris was our guy, then if Mark Harris says that Stony Russian should be the guy, then I would vote for him. But Stony Russian really didn't, you know, he didn't make impact during this election.
Well, two things about that. One, that Dan Bishop could demonstrate he could go outside of Mecklenburg County, outside of his safe zone, and get votes, I think probably is a good sign for the Republicans. And also the fact that he got 47% in a 10-candidate field. A lot of folks going into this race thought the Republicans would be fractured, they would be, you know, scattershot, they wouldn't be unified as they more or less were. After the Harris scandal, if anything, I think Dan kind of settled things down. Dan Bishop kind of settled things down within the party and say, hey, we have a traditional Republican candidate who seems to be able to win votes in and out of Charlotte, and that's always what the 9th District race has been about for the Republicans, is to find that traditional Republican who, for decades, has beaten the Democrat on the other side of the tickets.
And I think with Dan Bishop, you're going to have the campaign, here we go again. We're going to go down that road of HB2. That's going to be brought up. Dan McCready, I know someone is going down every vote that Dan Bishop did in the State House, and that will come back up. So it's going to be very interesting. We're going to be reintroduced to Dan Bishop.
Well, let's talk about that. Dan Bishop's first campaign stop was outside of McCready headquarters with a cardboard cutout of McCready next to him. This is going to be a little bit more of an aggressive campaign, at least on the part of the Republicans, than I think we saw with Harris versus McCready. Correct?
You know, I found it interesting that he would take the fight to McCready like that, because the general conventional wisdom, it happens all the time with debates, is the incumbent or the favorite really doesn't want to debate the other person to put him on a platform. But Bishop going right there, taking the fight to him, suggests not necessarily that he sees himself as an underdog, but that he's you know, going to be aggressive, and that he's not going to take that Republican 60-year incumbency for granted.
And that there's work to do probably after the scandal and after the whole Harris fiasco and that sort of thing. The other thing I wondered too, because this race is in September, and because it's coming in the midst now of a presidential campaign that really didn't exist in November, I'm wondering if the dynamics of the race changed. I mean, before McCready was the outsider, well, both of them were outsiders, Harris and McCready, but now you've got a lot of Democrats who are in the race for president that everybody is asking every other Democrat, who do you support, or can you support some of the more liberal candidates or some of the more out there positions they're taking? Does this put Dan McCready in a different situation, in a different position than he was in the first time around, when he's got to not just answer for himself and not just criticize his opponent, but he's got to answer for all the other Democrats who are potentially, you know, going to be on the ticket with him, or at least, you know, sharing that D line on any ballot going forward?
I think it puts him in a harder spot.
I think so.
In 2018, he was basically one of a class of Democrats who was coming up and saying, we've got to win back the House. We've got this mission.
There's a theme.
Right. Now, we've already seen Dan Bishop trying to tie McCready to folks like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Pelosi. Now the Republicans have enemies in the House that they can run against pretty effectively. Also, I think people are going to maybe get election fatigue here. I don't know how much.
I've got it.
I don't know how much folks are going to be motivated to come to a September race. I think we could be setting up a really low turnout contest again. We've also got the Charlotte race coming up in November, and I think it would have been more favorable for McCready if Charlotte's municipal elections were that day.
To stand there next to Vi Lyles.
Right,
And
so you've got a lot of Democrats in Charlotte coming to the polls
that are not
going to
be there in
mayor.
September.
Right.
Are they going to be there in September?
Most of the Democrats are not going to have primaries in September. Most of those Democrats don't have a reason to come out in September except for this race. So will they? That's the real question. Will they make the effort?
You know, and I see it the other way. How McCready would say, you know, so McCready say this is race number 2. I lost by 905 votes. So I'm saying, you know, say, hey, all I need is 906 more people to come out to vote for me to win. So, you know, so he may have the lay of the land. So, you know, even though it may be an uphill battle, but, you know, looking at the glass half full, you can say, hey, that, you know, when I ran against Mark Harris, I was just 905. Sure.
Well, and we know he's been running for 2 years. We've talked about that
Right.
now. So will he switch it up? Will he maybe change his tactics a little bit? I think that will be interesting to see, especially in light of Dan Bishop running against him.
He almost has to. There's no sense of
Yeah.
urgency on the part of the Democrats or Republicans about keeping the House or winning the House. That's been done. Now
Right.
we know it's a Democratic House. So Dan McCready can't say, hey, you know, make me part of the landslide, or for that matter, Bishop can't say, you know, preserve what we have. It's a done deal. So now it's really a one-on-one race. And I'm not sure that one-on-one with all the baggage that some of those Democrats bring to the table is necessarily a good thing in this district. I'm not saying it's a bad thing in general, but it might be a bad thing for someone running in the 9th District congressional.
In a September race.
Yeah, in a
Right, and
September
just
race.
remember the district has been Republican for 60
Decades,
years.
since the
So,
50s.
Right.
Yeah.
It always is an uphill battle for the Democrat, regardless of the circumstances. And McCready has an uphill battle.
It's going to be a September to remember.
I like this guy.
Bishop always with the one-liners.
I just thought it was cardboard cutting. Hey, speaking of politics, we were talking 2020 this week. RNC 2020, the city and the organizers, generally not so much about security anymore, but now about financial impact and about fundraising. We're kind of getting into the nuts and bolts of the convention now, and I guess we'll return to security as a big issue as we get closer. But for now, everyone's kind of looking at it as a financial driver for the city, and maybe a more successful event for the Republicans than even we saw in 2012 for the Democrats. At least when you base it on fundraising, they're a lot farther ahead now than the Democrats were here in Charlotte in 2012. Why is that? Any guesses?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the RNC is allowing corporate spending donations above 100,000, which of course we know in 2012 that wasn't exactly the case. We know that they limited sort of that corporate donation. So you're seeing companies and corporations probably writing really big multi-million-dollar checks to the cause, which will of course, you know, give them sort of the edge, I think, especially early on.
Plus, we're, from what I understand, we're ahead of the fundraising even from Cleveland 4 years ago, or in
That's what they
the last
indicated.
election. So that's really kind of surprised me that the fundraising was doing so well so early.
Well, we haven't seen any financial reports yet, and we
Right.
won't till after the convention see anything detailed. But you know, I think one question going into this was, will some companies step back from the Trump convention? You know, will a company like, say, Bank of America, that serves a huge, diverse clientele, want to step up and write a huge check for Trump's renomination, given how divisive a candidate he is and how divisive a convention it could be. What the organizers have said is that so far they're not seeing anything, any trouble raising money. So I don't think we're seeing that materialize.
And their goals are a lot higher too. They're looking at 70 to 75 million in fundraising, where the DNC in 2012 here only was raising half of that and didn't even reach that goal. So I guess that corporate money really does make a huge difference when you're trying to
Right.
get big numbers like that.
Duke Energy had to end up eating the $10 million line of credit that they extended the DNC, which was a pretty unpopular move with them and some of their shareholders.
Now, the financial impact is also promising. We're talking about a $200 million potential impact, which would go beyond what they saw in Cleveland in the last election, and would be just huge for, you know, everybody in town, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, in terms of hotel
keep in
rooms and
mind
everything
again,
else.
you know, we've all talked about this, the fact that it was a Democratic city council and mayor who really went and pitched for this, and taking off their partisan hats and saying this will be good for Charlotte. Well, and I guess so far they're right,
Yeah.
right?
Direct spending
so
in
good.
Cleveland, I believe, was 101 million, and of course, when you take in all those indirect spending and all those extra things they sort of take into account in the analysis, came up to about 188 million. But I think with what they're projecting now, it could look like even exceeding 101 million for that direct spending.
When the numbers get to that point, you kind of forget about the politics and say, hey, this is going to be a good payday for everybody involved, regardless of what party or what candidate is standing up on the podium at the end of the event.
There are even developers who are trying to, fly up those hotels. I know the Grand Bohemian developer, they're like, we're trying to get this done before RNC comes into town. They want to have those rooms available. I think right now we're at almost 5,000 hotel rooms in Uptown. By the RNC, when they come here, we'll have 7,500 just in Uptown, and that's not including, of course, everything around town. And if the light rail is running, which we don't know yet, but they indicate that it should be, which we'll see. But that will, of course, increase access to hotel rooms.
And that would
too.
be different from Democrats. They could not run light rail through Uptown during the Democratic convention here, but apparently, for whatever reason, security is going to be different and is going to allow that to happen. So, we'll find out. A little less disruptive.
And I think this shows a sign that, people want to come to Charlotte. It's all about location, location, location. And I think that, Charlotte is situated where, you can drive here, plane, train, bus, automobile, whatever. So I think that is maybe a sign where people are interested in coming to Charlotte. And I think that's a win for the city.
Yeah, by the way, if you watch HBO and you watch the program Veep, which is an Emmy award-winning comedy, they wrapped up their whole series, their season this week, and the whole final episode is set in Charlotte. The 2020 convention is what they refer to. It's a political show. They don't refer to it as the RNC, but it's the 2020 Charlotte Convention. Every exterior is Spectrum Arena or the Skyline. All the signs within the arena are Charlotte 2020. There are references to North Carolina and the bathroom bill, both good and bad references. But I guess this is the kind of profile, too, that having a convention brings you, not necessarily specific to the convention itself, but just the general recognition of Charlotte as a destination for these sorts of things.
Some
now.
tourists is out there now with the camera because they saw that episode on Veep taking
Well, when you have
of this.
15,000 media descending upon Charlotte for the RNC, and even the events leading up to it, certainly that's exposure that you simply just can't buy.
guess we could have had Game of Thrones, but
They burned the city.
Spoiler alert.
oh well, next time.
We got a few Starbucks.
Charlotte
Right?
pre-2020.
Westeros 2020.
Hey,
10-20.
let's switch gears for a second and talk about the streetcars. We talked about this about a month ago, about the prospect of the streetcars shutting down for an extended period. Now it's on Facebook, so I guess it has to be true. But we now know when it's going to start and how long it's going to take. And I guess it raises the question again of,
What are we doing
at
here?
CATS, what the heck is going on down there?
Yeah, I think, this project to me is starting to move into the off the rails, trouble,
Yeah,
whatever.
boondoggle stage.
Boondoggle, yes, I've
exactly,
heard that word.
It's shutting down June 3rd, and it will be shut down until the whole extended line opens in early 2021.
A year and a half.
At least. That's
Right.
if the delayed opening happens on time. So at the time, and they're shutting it down because they say they need to raise the platforms a few inches and add more power substations for the new cars that are coming. So when it shuts down, it will have been open for 4 years. Then it will be shut down for almost the next 2. When it reopens, it's going to have different cars, different platforms, different
Extension.
power, extension. It's basically a completely different line.
Kind of like starting over
Yeah,
in
yeah.
a lot of ways.
So the whole thing that we'll have had in place for 6 years at that point will basically be, when it reopens, a redo. That to me is kind of stunning.
And
Right.
doesn't the RNC have something to do with that because they said that they could not have any construction going
Right.
on
Yeah.
during the time of the RNC? So is
It's
that
a little-
impacting a little bit?
It's a factor.
kind of
Yeah,
convenient.
it's one factor,
Convenient,
although the city manager did say it's not the only factor. There are other construction delays.
Yeah.
We know about the steel girdles on the Hawthorne Lane Bridge.
Yeah, I mean, we're $300 million deep into this thing, and it makes you wonder, in hindsight, could that $300 million have been better spent on something else in CATS's, big plan of light rail and and rapid transit. I mean, it hasn't driven development along the lines necessarily like the light rail has in South End and is starting to in the other end of the line. It's certainly not a transportation factor. I mean, there's nobody on the thing for crying out loud.
659 average daily riders.
Which is
on a weekday.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? That sounds pretty low.
That's very low.
That's extremely
every
low.
one of them
So-
pays how much?
Yeah,
Nothing.
They don't.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
so-
I mean, you know, it's cute, right? I mean, it's an old, you know, tiny
a lot of money
kind
for
of
cute.
trolley. Yeah, well, it's form versus function. I'm going to tell a story on my wife real briefly. She bought a raincoat once that wasn't waterproof, but it looked good, right? I said, well, what are we doing here? Well, we can always Scotch guard it. Well, I guess they're Scotch guarding this thing. But you know, I mean, it looked good. But now what they're and I'm going to try to give them props here a little bit. Okay, they're taking what was, you know, essentially a cute little shuttle, free shuttle, and they're going to try to make it a semi-long, a short commuter line. It's going to look like a commuter line. It's not going to be terribly fast because it still has to go on the streets, but it will at least extend from, you know, on the other side of Independence all the way over to Johnson C. Smith and that 5 Points area. So there will be a little more functionality, and if there's functionality, that's I think what transit should do.
I think this is something that while CATS is planning out its future, all of its transit lines, of course we're looking at the Blue Line, Blue Line going out to Pineville, Ballantyne, Silver Line going out to Gaston County potentially, and you know the billions of dollars that's going to cost. I think as part of this plan, they're just going to have to say, well, what's the future of the streetcar? What's, you know, are we serious about continuing this? Has it been worth it? I think these are all questions they're going to have to discuss.
And in hindsight, it's $300 million spent on essentially the train under the Christmas tree that goes around in a circle and doesn't really do much else but look nice. I mean, that's, you know.
Well, when it opens, it'll be 4 miles long, and it'll be about 8 years of construction from the very start of construction of the first line to that. I think whether or not they extend it to the full planned 10 miles is a very open question.
I think it's time to start relooking at priorities there when it comes to limited spending, dollars able to be spent, and where your priorities really are as far as transportation is concerned. Hey, let's talk about schools for a few minutes. The equity policy that's been more than a year in planning is finally now approved by the school board, and not unanimously, so we've still got controversy there. But Dedrick, what is different about this? You know, how will this change things going forward?
Well, the people who are for it, they say that hopefully this will offer transparency, accountability, where you will allow people from outside CMS to take a look inside CMS to see exactly, you know, when it comes to student assignment, to make sure that there's equity across every more than 170 schools. It was disbanded several years ago, and there was talk about, you know, should it come back? One school board member said that, you know, she didn't think it should be come back because CMS already knows what's wrong. CMS already knows what it needs to do. So why do you need people from the outside to tell you what you already know what you need to do?
Kind of the sense that I got too after reading about what it's going to monitor, it's going to measure equity or lack of equity, but it's not really seeming to solve the problem. It's just kind of continuing to define a problem that we can't seem to solve.
Yeah, I think it's probably just, you know, to offer transparency and to let the community weigh in, because you have to have buy-in from the community. So hopefully if they have buy-in from the community, hopefully they can get things done a little quicker. Maybe the community can see something that CMS is not looking at. And so, but a lot of people, they were concerned about that up to 40 members on a committee.
That's a big committee.
Yeah, that is a big committee. And so some people were concerned, and some school board members voted against that because they said that that's just too much. But we will just have to wait and see if those committee members will get on the light rail or get on the goal line. And
go around
take a lane,
and
go around.
Put them on this, they would double ridership on
But
the
people were there at the school board meeting on Tuesday night holding up signs, said we need that equity committee, and they got it. So we will see. Now they got it. We'll see what's going to happen.
A couple board members mentioned this. Is equity now the top priority of this school board or the school system? Because some board members seem to suggest that equity is is surpassing academics in some ways in terms of, and maybe they're one and the same, but it does seem like diversity and equity is the rule of law over there.
Exactly. That's what the superintendent, that's what his top priority is. You know, they issued that report, Breaking the Link, and then when you look at that report, you will see that there are some problems in CMS when it comes to equity.
He said that a diploma from a school like Erringer is not worth the same as a diploma from Providence or Ardrey-Kell.
And when you have Charlotte's top educators saying
that, you've got a problem
issue.
that needs to be addressed, I suppose, going forward.
can you have children succeeding academically on fair ground when they're in a school that's 90% poverty versus another school in the same system that's, say, 90% wealthy?
Right.
And can you really have academic success when there are those glaring disparities? I think they're very intimately linked.
That's the theory, that academics go hand in hand with equity, at least in this school system, I suppose.
And the community is saying that, hey, we pay you top dollar. You're a high-paid superintendent. You have a lot of people, six-figure salaries around you trying to solve the problem. And guess what? It's not fixed yet with your top dollar. So let the community come in, and maybe we can give you some help, and maybe we can get this train speeding along.
Speaking of diplomas, it was a celebratory week at UNC Charlotte, but also a solemn one, as they had graduation day this past weekend. And obviously they celebrated the graduates, but they also remembered the folks who weren't there, the victims of that shooting. It was pretty touching to see that one victim, Emily Hupp, walk the stage, first graduate to get her diploma, and the standing ovation that came with it. I mean, that was hard not to be moved by watching that moment. It must have been a different kind of graduation day on campus, I suppose.
I think it's changed, right? I mean, not to overstate things, I hope, but 9/11 changed our parameters, and something like this happens at UNC Charlotte, and UNC Charlotte has changed. 10 years from now, it won't be front and center, but it's always going to be there. It's going to be part of what happened, and so yes, it was huge, and it is huge, and it will continue to be an issue.
10 years from now, we'll still have scholarships named for the two shooting victims who died. An anonymous donor contributing $1 million to support those scholarships going forward, which is there's no way you can make up for what happened, but it seems to be an appropriate way to remember them and their sacrifice.
And it's not on the list here, but I throw in that CMPD honored posthumously Riley Howell, the young man who tackled the shooter. That was kind of cool to see too. That they went so far as to do that in their awards ceremony this week.
And this just shows that no community is exempt from tragedy or from the senseless killing. No one is exempt from that, and so we should just hug each other a little tighter, when the sun goes down.
Hey, we'll do the group hug after the show, okay? Hey, everybody, thanks a lot for joining us. Good discussion this week. If you want to join the discussion anytime, remember it's Off the Record at WTVI.org. We'll see you next time right here on Off the Record. Sure.
A production of PBS Charlotte.